majority of those final candidates were out of state. So you might want to move up your start time.
Okay.
Got it. So that it could shift everything.
And
Okay.
we don't have a big gap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, through the chair, perhaps it'd be better just to offer the candidate, because if some of them were only like an hour difference time
Correct.
zone wise.
Yeah.
So I think most of them were Eastern-ish, United States or Midwest. So I think
If we can offer
we
them
could
that
do
gap.
some in the morning,
Yeah.
I would think. So I think we should try to start with 9:00 and then see where it goes from there.
I think it's
And
not.
offer 1 hour slots so
It's
that they
starting
can
at
choose one.
9:30.
I think.
Oh,
I think
9:30,
just-
sorry, 9:30, sorry.
That's fine.
Ray,
Yes.
can we have the chairman discuss some of those details with direct our secretary on some of those issues if a scheduling issue comes up? For
That's
someone,
perfectly fine. There's nothing substantive there. That would be fine to designate the chair to coordinate those 5 interviews as circumstances require.
I'd make that in the form of a motion if no one has an objection.
Very good. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Just in
So-
case something comes up, you can just talk to Patty and
Okay, thank you.
figure it out. Because you may contact them, Patty, and they may say, oh gee, I'm working at 9, whatever. I'm working till 9 or I'm working till 12 and they're at a different time zone, and then you have to tell the chair and he can straighten it out.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, we have a plan. So we'll move on to the agenda for the meeting scheduled for 3.
I think I'll make a motion to adjourn the subcommittee.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
yes,
we
you do.
adjourned that something we're doing.
We had not
We
adjourned.
have
no.
not adjourned the
Oh, we
subcommittee.
didn't adjourn.
Nor
the
did,
subcommittee.
actually,
Okay.
technically,
adjourned
I
it.
don't believe we sealed the minutes technically.
We
either.
did.
Did we take a vote
Yes.
on that? Okay, sorry, thank you.
All right.
Got a lot of.
Okay, moving to adjourn the subcommittee. Made a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, subcommittee is adjourned. I guess, any other questions before we move on? Any points? No? Okay, moving on to this agenda. The first item is the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting held on.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, that's right, we need,
It's a technicality, but
I'm getting ahead of myself. We
You're
need
ahead of
a,
yourself.
we need a roll call,
We
correct?
do.
That's right.
You are in.
You've been here since 2:00 on this.
Chairwoman Gutierrez, Vice Chairman Scholl,
Present?
Member Bettenker,
Here.
Member Connors,
Present.
Member DeSimone,
Present?
Member Jack Boney,
Present.
Member Johnson. Executive Director Robert Reposa,
Present.
Legal Counsel Raymond Carchio.
present.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we'll just move forward now. So the first item is the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, November 16, 2023.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So passed. The second item, board may discuss and vote on the regular monthly meeting calendar for 2024. So Bob, do you have something to present?
Good afternoon, honorable members of the board. Before you is the staff proposed meeting schedule for 2024. The first meeting for the year would be on January 9th at 2 p.m. Each month, the calendar has been created so that the meeting is on the first Tuesday after the first Monday, because as you're aware, that is Election Day in Rhode Island. The meetings also, according to this draft calendar in front of you, has been scheduled to occur at 2 p.m. For those of you that have not been on the board for a long period of time, the 2 p.m. time is used to accommodate individuals who would like to attend our meetings but can only get here from public transportation because the bus lines do not go past this building after 3:30 in the afternoon. And that was one of the issues that was raised when we came to this building in February of 2020. But this meeting, this calendar does have 12 meetings scheduled, as you know, especially in 2024. You will have many more meetings than these 12 due to the fact that we have 3 statewide elections.
I just have one point, Bob. When we set up our little calendar to select a candidate, we had a meeting on, I believe, on January 23 for the full board to meet in executive session to discuss the qualifications. I think that should be on the calendar here.
You can add it to here if you choose, or we always have the ability to create amended calendars, which are also on our website and are posted.
Right.
If you would like to add January 23rd at 2 PM, we can do that.
Yeah,
Or
that's
we can do
definitely-
it as an amended meeting at a later time.
Also, February 1, the full board's going to meet in executive session as well.
Do you want to put
Yeah,
these
both
on?
days, yeah,
So
January
you want to put
23
February 1?
and January 23.
Okay, we will add them.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments? Yes, Ray?
Yeah, I just have a question. What remind me of the date in April, the presidential preference primary?
April 2nd.
Oh, that is the second. Okay, for some reason I had the fourth in my head. And my second question, just since you mentioned public transportation, do you know how early the buses start coming
I
here?
believe they run all day long, but they
So it's
stop.
like 9 to 3:30, like I have.
I don't know the exact
Okay.
stop time. I just know the stop time because of
Okay.
what we looked into
Yeah.
when we were creating past.
Okay, just something to think about, only because I think in my short tenure here, we've only had one meeting that's been less than an hour and a half, so it might not be an adequate amount of time for somebody who did want to attend.
We
So if
could-
that's,
We couldn't.
I'm not suggesting a change now, but something for the board to consider maybe when we hit the new year. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we always try to have a meeting where everyone can come. Try to get a consensus for the time and date. So, like Bob said, we can always change this later on.
We can change it.
Sorry I was late, but I I came in when you were saying that. So you said public transport, RIPTA does not have any routes coming here past 3:30 PM?
They do. They go, the last one stops up at the Walmart, and the person would have to get from Walmart here. Where up to 3:30, they come down Plainfield Pike, and they turn around on Sailor Way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, can I,
Yes,
sorry.
please, go ahead.
But to Commissioner Jack Boney's point, I mean, I would be open and willing to look into the more, like, I don't know about others, speaking for myself, I'll get here but 2:00 is, can be a challenge, certainly having the dates in advance, but
Would you like to change all of the starting times
Well-
at this time?
I think it's up for I'm one board member, so.
I mean, I could certainly be available in the morning. I think if the two commissioners think morning is a better time, I'm certainly willing to discuss it, but it's,
All right.
Again, it's up to the full board. how you wanna handle it.
I mean, it's done now, so.
But this
Well,
has
not
not,
done.
this has not been done.
No,
This
I
is-
know,
no,
but
we
the
have-
scheduling is.
So Jenny, what time would
If
you
we
be,
posted this, we could have.
feel comfortable with?
Mhm.
But if you want to, we could actually make the change before you adopt it. If the days are set, that, the way the set days are, because it's election day to cover special elections, but the 2 PM can be changed earlier, and if you approve it, we would just publish the calendar to that effect.
Oh, got it. So we would just publish the dates rather than the dates and the
In the
time.
times, with the motion and the vote that you take at this time.
So Jenny, you're satisfied with these? Let's
I
go.
Have it in the
I am
morning.
satisfied.
Okay, all right.
I'd rather have them in the morning. I mean, does the board, what's the board's consensus on it? What's the feeling?
I just would want to know
I
if,
can be available at either time.
if
on
public
Tuesday.
transportation is a concern, I just wouldn't want to make it
Too late.
Harder. yeah.
too early in the morning.
Too early.
So like if we said 9 o'clock, I'm just saying it as an example, but the buses don't run here till 10 o'clock, then that certainly is problematic. So I would just, I think maybe for that, we could maybe adopt it as is would be my suggestion. And
Yeah.
then in the new year, once we can check the public transportation schedule,
Yeah.
then maybe amend it.
Because, yeah, the morning work too.
Okay, so we'll leave it the way it is pending further study later on. Okay. So is there a motion?
Is with the change that you made of
Yes.
January 23rd and February 1st.
I'll move to adopt it as it is with January 23rd and February 1st. Are those also 2 o'clock meetings, Bob?
Technically, no, just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say, right now, we had in the official calendar, February 1st, we had it for 9 a.m., but we
Correct.
can change it for 2. Just wanted everybody to know.
Well, we had it February 1 at 10:30, so board can interview everyone and then discuss it.
Yeah,
Okay,
because February 1st would be final
Yeah.
interviews.
right. So,
No, you're
You
right.
want to do
yeah, so I think we leave that at 9:30.
9:30 would be
So
great.
give us
9:30.
enough time to discuss it.
Thank you, Bob.
That's
Nine-
February 1st.
February 1st, yep.
is 9:30.
9:30.
So that's the only one.
And the 23rd
2
is
p.m.
at 2 o'clock.
Right.
Right. Okay,
So if the second will allow it, I'll modify my motion to include February 1st at 9:30 instead of 2 o'clock.
I'll
Yes.
allow it.
all right. Give a second for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay. All right, so the calendar as amended is adopted. Third item on the agenda is the board will hear a presentation from Rob Rock, Deputy Secretary of State of Georgia Amori, and may discuss and vote on the promulgation of rules and regulations for nomination papers prior to the 2024 election cycle. So, Rob, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the board. I come before you on at the request of Secretary Amori regarding a piece of legislation that we're going to introduce again this year. And we're finalizing the language of that legislation, and I expect it to be officially before you at your January 9th meeting. And one of our priority bills is to move the statewide primary from the second Tuesday after the first Monday in September to the last Tuesday in August, which we introduced last year as well, mainly because our current primary makes it very difficult to meet our federal requirement to get military and overseas voters their mail ballots at least 45 days before the election. So this bill would once again move the primary up a bit to give us more time to create those ballots ahead of that 45-day deadline. However, this year, we're going to add to that legislation a process that will hopefully take care of and handle any sort of situation similar to the one that happened in the Congressional District 1 primary regarding the nomination papers. And essentially, the bill is going to ask for the Board of Elections to create rules and regulations that would handle this process. So the law would require the board to promulgate rules, and there'll be some language in there that talks about an automatic review of signatures should a certain threshold be met, but that would be determined in the Board of Elections rules and regulations. And I want to thank Miguel and Bob and the staff for getting us some suggested changes that we made updates to the bill based on those suggestions. We also met with the Clerks Association yesterday, the Elections Committee, to talk about the bill, and they offered some suggestions. So ultimately, though, we know that even if the bill were to pass this legislative session, it probably won't happen until the end of session, which leaves the board very little time, actually no time, to create rules and regulations to handle the 2024 election cycle. So what the secretary is requesting is that the board on its own promulgate rules and regulations in the spring so that they're in place for the 2024 election. And then our legislation would kind of coincide with that. And should the bill pass, the rules and regulations would, in theory, be finished if the board accepts the request and promulgates the regulations this spring. So that's the request from the secretary. As I mentioned, we will be before the board at the January 9th meeting with the official language of the bill. But separate and apart from that, we're asking that the board promulgate rules and regs around nomination papers this spring ahead of the 2024 election cycle.
I have one question, Bob. In the last election, the CD1, there was an issue of time. We only had 2 days to review those nomination papers. So what does this bill do about expanding that time?
It, if memory serves me, it gives the board a full week to adjudicate any challenges as opposed to the 2 days, which is also similar to the bill that the board, that you all put in last year to request the 7 days. So this gives 7 days for any candidate that's going to appear in a primary, and I believe gives the board even more time to deal with any adjudications where the candidate is going to be in the general election and not the primary. So for any independent candidate that has an issue, you don't need to rush and make a decision ahead of the primary because they're not going to appear. So that bill will handle or take care of the board's request from last year to get more time to adjudicate challenges. And the specific number of days, I believe it's either 6 or 7, but it's a full calendar week to make that decision.
Yeah, very good. Any questions of Mr. Rock? So, thank you for coming. I guess we'll wait for the package from the Secretary of State's office to be presented to the board and for our review.
Yeah, and so I mean, the request is that the board will, and I'm not fully understanding of the promulgation process, but we would like the board to start the process of promulgating rules and regs based on just the nomination papers, separate from our legislation.
All right.
So can I
Yes, please.
ask, so how, looking to Bob, how would you start that? I mean, when would you start that? Assuming you've all been talking up until this point.
Item that is before you today is for a presentation from Rob. There is
No,
there is no vote.
No, I know that.
What we would do, so you're aware, is
What says,
start
may
to
discuss and
craft
vote.
the the rule and regulation to bring it back before you during the session that begins in January, so that the rule and reg could be created along the legislation that the secretary is going to introduce. So then.
Okay,
when
so-
the legislation passes, the rule and reg that you created.
Yes.
Would be.
No, thank you. I understand that. I'm wondering timing of when we would see something from you. Is it the February meeting? Is it after that? I know that the Secretary of State's office is coming back with theirs on the 23rd, the 9th,
We'll be ready on the 9th, yes.
January 9th?
With the legislation.
Yeah, no.
And then we would, with that legislation, then could go off and start to create the rule and reg. We should have a draft, I would think, ready for your review by the February 6th meeting.
Okay.
So
We
So can we move that now? Because it does say it may discuss and vote, right? On the
Yeah, it does say-
amended agenda, I think it says discuss and vote.
Yeah, it does say that.
The amended agenda that you have.
Yep.
May
So it
discuss
doesn't-
and
in front
vote
of us.
It's
on
not the same as what's up there.
promulgation.
Right? Am I misreading, am I reading
No,
the wrong
you're-
number?
No, you're not reading it wrong. It does say that number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah.
We discuss and vote on promulgation, so if
Mm-hmm.
we could at least move to commence the process.
Move to draft the process. Yeah,
I mean,
I
at
agree.
least start the process
Yeah, but
anyway.
in
I mean,
the agenda in
obviously
front of
not-
us.
Your agenda says a vote, this one doesn't.
Oh.
We can start,
Good.
we can start the process.
Okay.
I don't think that needs a vote to do that.
I just have a question for Ray also. Ray, you still there?
Ray,
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, two things.
your
Ray.
microphone needs to be on because he can't hear you.
Our printed agenda says discuss and vote, and I don't know, sorry. Our printed agenda says discuss and vote, and I don't know if does the posted agenda say discuss and vote? Do we know?
I
Does it-
can check
Okay,
as we
and then-
speak
and
to
then
see what we have here.
The second question I have, Ray, is in the event that we promulgate these regulations and the legislation doesn't pass, are we still, don't we still have the authority to make the regulations?
Of course, so long as it does not exceed what's in the current statute. So if
Okay.
the statute being introduced by the secretary modifies certain deadlines, extends certain deadlines.
Okay,
For challenges, for example, you cannot have a regulation that would violate or be inconsistent with those. So you'd have to follow whatever the law is. I
Okay.
think what Rob is saying is there may be changes introduced on January 9. That's one set. And then even if that legislation does not pass, he's interested in having the board promulgate a regulation generally in this area on nomination process. Is that right, Rob?
Yes, that's correct.
and I'm happy to
Yeah,
hear
so I mean,
that, as am I.
So so it's twofold. One, if it goes to the statute and the statute is amended, you can only do what the statute allows. But if the area of regulation is not amended, you can certainly regulate that right now.
Okay,
But
thank you, Ray.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure here?
As long as we're posted correctly, I'll move to begin the process of promulgating these regulations for nomination papers.
I'll second that.
Did-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think the executive director has.
That's what was posted, then I withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate your report, unless you want something to add to this.
No, thank
Okay.
you very much, and
Okay.
happy holidays.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We look forward to the package. The item number 4, the board may discuss and vote to approve the proposed calendar for the Woonsocket City Council special primary election to be held on Tuesday, February 6, 2024, and the special election to be held on Tuesday, March 5, 2024. Bob?
The special election in Woonsocket is being held to fill a vacancy on the Woonsocket City Council due to the current office holder, who was then council president, Christopher Bouchamp, was sworn in as mayor due to the resignation of former mayor Lisa Baldelli Hunt on November 9th. The Board of Canvassers asked the staff to create a calendar for them to conduct a special election, which we did. The Board of Canvassers voted to call for the special primary at its November 17th meeting, indicating that the special primary would be held on February 6, 2024, and the special election to follow on March 5th, 2024. The primary will be necessary if more than 2 candidates qualify to be placed on the ballot. Declaration of candidacy is scheduled to occur on Thursday, December 28th, and Friday, December 30th. The calendar presented to you today is based on the work, again, by the staff and the Board of Canvassers in Woonsocket, and we respectfully request that you approve this calendar, which has also previously been approved by the city of Woonsocket.
Any questions? No? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The next item, the board may discuss and vote on the polling places for the Woonsocket City Council's special primary election to be held on Tuesday, February 6, 2024, and the special election to be held on Tuesday, March 5, 2024. Bob?
On Friday, November 17th, the Woonsocket Board of Canvassers had a busy meeting, so they also met to discuss and select the polling locations for their upcoming February 6th, 2024 special primary and March 5th, 2024 special election for Woonsocket City Council. The Board of Elections staff received this request from the Woonsocket Board of Canvassers on Monday, November 20th. The Woonsocket Board of Canvassers unanimously agreed upon opening 6 polling locations citywide. The city of Woonsocket is comprised of 12 precincts and has a total of 25,669 registered voters. The anticipated turnout for this special election is likely to be between 7 to 12%. The last citywide special primary for city council was held in July 2019 and had a turnout of 7.09%. With a special election held in August 2019, which had a turnout of 9.59%. They also had a special referendum held in 2018, which had a turnout of 6.3%, which is, I believe, the reason why they have requested to open 6 of their 12 polls. The 6 polls that they will be, that they are requesting to open would be precinct 3902, which combines precinct 3901 and 3912, and the voting would occur at the John F. Kennedy Manor located at 547 Clinton Street, where the combination of voters would total 5,022. The second location they would like to open is precinct 3903, and it combines precinct 3904, and it would be held at the Parkview Manor located at 218 Pond Street. The combination has a total number of voters of 3,461. The third polling place would be held at precinct 3905 and combines with 3906 at the Fairmont Heights, located at 525 Second Avenue. The combination would have a total number of voters of 4,322. The fourth polling place would be precinct 3907. That is not going to be combined with any other precincts and would be held at the Monsignor Gatorade at the entrance on Elmore Avenue. The address of the building is 1371 Park Avenue and has a total number of voters of 2,580. The fifth polling place would be located in precinct 3908 and include precinct 3909. It would be at the Crapo Court at 100 Front Street. Total number of voters with the combination is 4,633. The last of the 6 polls is going to be in precinct 3910 and combined precinct 3911 at the Leo Savoy School in the gym. And that school is located at 990 Mendon Road with a total combination of voters of 5,651. At the January meeting, the Woonsocket Board of Canvassers is going to have information whether or not the Leo Savoy School will be closed for the primary and the election. As you can tell from the 5 previous polls I mentioned, none of them are held in schools, just the Leo Savoy. But the Woonsocket Board of Canvassers is making accommodations. If, in fact, the schools are to be open, the voting will occur in the gym, and they are planning on having police coverage at the school for the duration of the day. Those are the 6 polls that the staff has reviewed, and we ask that you approve these to be used for the Woonsocket special primary and special election in 2024.
All right, thank you. Any questions? What's the board's pleasure?
I will move to approve the polling places as outlined by the staff for the Woonsocket Council Special Primary and General Election.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, ayes have it, so passes. Item number 6. The board may discuss and vote to proceed with the adoption of the rule and regulation, disclosure of independent expenditures, electioneering, communications, and covered transfers. So who's making this presentation?
The presentation is going to be made by Ray and by Rick.
Okay.
Would you like me to provide a summary of that, Mr. Chair, of the, of where we are with this regulation?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so before the board is another set of limited modifications to the independent expenditure regulation that follows your last vote, which I believe was in September of this year. Following that vote, there were several issues that needed to be addressed, and there was a need to go back to some of the public interest groups that have been very helpful in this entire process to discuss possible further modifications. So those discussions were with both Attorney Beth Shimek of the Campaign Legal Center, John Marion of the Common Cause, and Steve Brown of the ACLU. So these are the set of revisions. There are just a few here, and I will present each one and recommend that a board take a vote on each one. On the first page, you should see a red line version for changes under 1.2 authority. This was, I believe, briefly discussed at the September meeting, but I do not believe there was a formal vote. At this point, where you see the reference to the Administrative Procedures Act, that has been stricken. It was suggested by CLC and Common Cause that be added in. That was part of their petition in rulemaking to have us subject to the APA for a number of very legitimate reasons. The board, as you know, is not subject to the APA, and we have deleted that reference in 1.2.
Will we take a vote on that, Ray?
I'll move
My
to accept
recommendation would be to vote on each of these separately, just so that it's clear. Now, I don't know if anyone else wants to be heard. There have been discussions that I've had, Rick has had, Bob has had with the public interest groups. Of course, if anyone is there in the audience and wishes to say something on this, that is up to the board.
Right. Does anyone have an interest in speaking?
On this issue at least?
Yes.
Thank you. I just, this will probably, hopefully, knock wood, be my last time talking about these. I just want to do a couple things. One, these were proposed in 2018. So I just want the public to be aware this has been a long and arduous process. I'm not going to express my gratitude until the vote is done. But I know Beth is watching in Wisconsin, so I just want to thank Beth Shimek and Campaign Legal Center, who drafted these back in 2018. It was actually someone named Austin Graham at the Campaign Legal Center who originally drafted them and is no longer with the organization. And thank Rick and Ray for their work on this as we've gone back and forth. So we don't have any substantive comments on the changes that Ray is reviewing at this time.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody have a question? None? Okay, so we have a motion here to vote on the amendment for change on section 1.2. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, Ray, move on to the second one, please.
Okay. And I want to echo what John said. It was arduous, and we have had litigation from the district court to the First Circuit to the U.S. Supreme Court on this set of on this statute. Okay, so on 1.3 in the definitions, You might remember that the ACLU, Steve Brown, at the end of his presentation noted that while they did not take a specific position on agent, they found it to be not entirely clear as to what was meant by that. There were several discussions over the last couple of months, and this is an attempt to make it more crisp and more defined. So we have an agent, meaning any person with actual authority, expressed or implied, engaging in activities on behalf of another person. And for purposes of this part, an agent of a candidate or committee includes any person who has served in an executive or managerial role or position with, or as a paid consultant to, the candidate or political committee at any time during the current election cycle. I'm going to start at the end first, just to make clear that over each version of this, I believe you've always seen the reference to preceding 2 years. Bob, Rick, and I had some concerns about exactly how to enforce that. When you say preceding 2 years, when did the 2 years begin? Is it from the time that the agency is formed? Is it from the time that the agent first acts? I mean, we think that the better approach is to have a defined period, which would be the current election cycle, which is defined later on under section 8, page 4, you'll see election cycle defined at that point. So it's for the 24-month period commencing on January 1 of an odd numbered year and ending on December 31 of the next even numbered year. This would follow much of the tracking that exists right now in campaign finance, that 2-year cycle. Now, admittedly, there are just a few positions, a few offices, I should say, that are a 4-year cycle. But even with those, such as the general office holder specifically, most campaign activity is going to be in the 2-year period that we're talking about. So we think we will be capturing most of the activity if we even just limit it to that quote current election cycle of 2 years as defined in section 8 on the following page. And then preceding, I believe that some of that language was proposed by Beth Shimek, which is referencing that the person who is acting as an agent is at a high level. It's not just ministerial. This is someone who's in an executive or managerial role, and we certainly support that as well. So that's the proposed changes to agent on page 1.
Any questions of the board? If not, we'll entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Changes, so noted and passed. Ray, what's the next change?
Okay, the next proposed change is on page 4 under electioneering communication. There was discussion about this back in September, and my recollection is that Mr. DeSimone, after hearing some of the discussion, I think proposed by Mr. Brown from the ACLU, that we add the term unambiguously identifies a candidate or referendum rather than refers to a clearly identified. That would track the statutory language, and that is before you as well.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
One quick question. There was a slight grammatical change on page 2. Do we need to address that first?
Let's see what the change is. Ray?
I see that. Yes, that is, I think that is something that has been out there for at least several months, if not longer, but that would be to use the disjunction instead of conjunction to make that clearer. So it's for either of these would constitute a covered disbursement, not that you have to have both required, but either required. And I believe that was the intention.
Okay, we'll vote on that as well. So
So I'll move,
Okay.
I'll move to make that change.
a second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Now we're back on page 4, 9A1.
Since I asked for it, I guess I'll move passage.
Great, thank you.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor, say
Just,
aye.
I'm sorry, under discussion, I think it
Yeah,
just
please.
the grammatical, it just needs to be a uppercase U,
Uppercase,
yeah, in that section. So
You
I'll-
being the uppercase?
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, with that, so noted. That would be the motion, right, Lou?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so passes. Next item, Ray, is on B1.
On the same page, that's 9B, under electioneering communication. There was discussion, again, I believe this was proposed by the ACLU regarding making sure that there's no coverage for electioneering communication, not just for news stories, commentary that are part of a general pattern of election-related news like CBS, PBS, or whatever, but also for other instances where there's been a editorial comment made by a communication that doesn't fall easily into that category. And one example would be if you had a medical board, a medical journal, I should say, a medical journal that is involved in infectious diseases and never gets involved in election-related news accounts or commentary, at least not as typically. But someone's running who is anti-vax, and the editorial board of that journal says, you know what, we do want to take a position on that candidate, showing our opposition or support, and they do so. While that would not easily fit into the category we had here, it should be, in my view, and I think of our staff, it's our view that should be covered. So we think that this should be stricken so that any news story, commentary, editorial, even if it's not part of a general pattern of such news, be exempt from being considered an electioneering communication.
Any questions? Not willing to entertain a motion?
Move to strike the language as referenced.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ray, the next item.
The next item is on page 7, number 17 at the very bottom, on membership communication. You may recall that there was some discussion about this. Again, concern being that if you limit it to strictly current members of a membership, of a union, for example, or a business entity, you could then require reporting when it goes out primarily to members, but not exclusively to members of that union, for example. And I think that Mr. Brown gave the example of how the ACLU may send out communications to members as well as people who have recently had their subscriptions or membership become delinquent. They haven't paid their dues or their membership for a year or more. And the ACLU has an interest in keeping them informed and hoping that, I'm sure part of it is to hope that they become a member again. So this would address that concern, that it would be primarily membership as opposed to exclusively. And then that other condition is just to make it a little bit more clear, as well as owners, stockholders, or executive or administrative employees. But the main thing is making it primarily members.
Any questions?
I'll move to accept the language.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved and passed. Ray's next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not believe that there are any other changes in this draft. So I think that, we have recently learned that through, some technical designation of this as being under the APA, what we may need to do is to just refile this as a non-APA regulation and get it resubmitted. But I do understand that that process will be pretty quick. But once we vote on each of these, we can adopt them and then send this out to the Secretary's office for promulgation.
Well, I think the first step is we have to vote to approve this as amended, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So you now have taken each of those modifications, but I do believe you should now adopt, if it's the board's wish, to adopt this regulation for promulgation.
Are you saying to adopt it for promulgation, or do you have to resubmit it? Can you clarify that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear you.
Can you clarify, if we vote to adopt this regulation, do we have to resubmit it?
If you adopt it, we do have to submit it to, we have to resubmit it to the Secretary's process, which I think would be to now do this as a non-APA regulation. And I haven't been involved directly in all those communications with your staff, but I think that's going to be pretty quick, as in like a matter of days, that if you file it, it gets published once the vote is recorded. Your vote is recorded. It gets published quite quickly.
But after we submit it to the Secretary of State, we don't have to vote on it again, do we?
No.
Okay.
No, this would be it.
All right. Any discussion about a board? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed rule as amended and resubmit as a non-APA rule and regulation to the Secretary of State.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So passes. The rule's adopted.
Thank you.
Ray, I want to thank you for all that hard work you've done on this. This is a long, hard process. You and John Marion and Steve Brown, and
Yeah.
whole group of people who are really interested
The
in this.
litigation added a number of years to
Yeah.
it, but that's all behind us.
But borne fruit. Well, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Rick.
The next item is the board may vote to meet in the executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A7 to discuss contract negotiations for a contract with Election Systems and Software, Inc. for election support services from January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2027.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we're going to move into executive session to discuss this.
You know, you should just be concerned that you'll get them, but they're not coming this week. They're not coming this week, but the week I've had.
As long as I get them. I'm not a.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't be here. Yeah.
Well, so what happens?
Yeah, I don't get a raise or anything. Yeah, they don't find it. I'm serious. I don't know. It's well, I have the transaction, but it hasn't been certified. The judge has to agree to be certified. Yeah. So we have 8 or 9 days. I'm probably shouldn't be class. I was just curious. Yeah. So, I wasn't the only one. I do. Me and guy must. So we go down and see it. Yeah, something I thought. Yes. So what happens is they can tell us. This one chapter. Yeah, before they go to. Yeah, from what I read.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll take this. So I'll send it to you.
And send them, a spreadsheet or something with every single state employee's name, social security number, and then it ended up getting somehow. That's how they go. And we got. That was a. Needless to say, I'm very surprised. Yeah, I don't know.
Bob.
Sure, yep, of course.
Give him a minute. Let's see where they are. Excuse me. Oh, okay, great, thanks.
Do we have your phone?
Exactly.
Ray's eye?
Yeah.
This way.
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're back in sessions, full Board of Elections. I think the first item is to move to seal the minutes of the board, of the executive session. Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ray, do you have something to report out?
Yes, there's one vote to report out from the executive session. A motion was made by Board Member DeSimone, seconded by Board Member Johnson, to authorize Board Member Giacavone to contact ES&S with any further questions regarding the proposed terms and conditions for a professional services agreement with ES&S. That motion was voted in favor with all members who were present, which are everyone except for Chair Medeiros. None opposed.
Okay.
The motion carried.
Great, thank you very much. The next item is item number 8. The board may discuss and vote to enter into a contract with Election Systems, but since we've going to have further discussion on this, we'll continue this to a further meeting, correct? Right. So that would be January 8th tentatively,
9th.
the 9th? Okay, right. Is there any other business coming before this board?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm wondering if for the January 9th meeting, we'll have any updates about our legislative package? And I ask because I think during 2023's legislative committee, like subcommittee, we talked about sort of meeting ahead of time, and this, the session starts the 2nd. So I'd love to know if, one, if we're getting your legislative package, or 2, if and when we're going to schedule our subcommittee meetings.
But who's on that subcommittee?
You are, Lou, and myself, and
Okay.
Jenna, and
All right.
Jennifer.
I'm going to ask the board if we could present to you what the staff suggests at the January 23rd meeting. Because you do have a meeting on the 23rd where it's a meeting that will be scheduled. I don't believe we will be ready by the 9th because there is not a lot of time.
Okay.
Okay,
And so would it be okay, so on the 23rd, you'll share with us your package, and then that day, the subcommittee can make meeting, a
That we can do.
timeline. Great.
any other?
23rd. Because
Any other comments?
they are going to have a meeting which they disapproved with the calendar on the 23rd.
And will the legislative meeting be?
It would have to be after. 'Cause
I'm sorry, say it again?
You would have to meet, because the staff would be presenting the proposed legislation to you, and then you have to meet the full board would meet on that, and then the subcommittee will start to hear legislation that's been introduced from other entities in the 2024 session.
So, yeah, well, I guess my question is, does the full board need to hear your package first before the subcommittee hears it?
We have always done it that way in the past.
Okay,
It gets presented to
Got
the full board.
thank you.
Because the
Alright.
subcommittee was created to look at legislation for the most part that was introduced
By
from
you.
other areas.
Got it, okay, perfect. And then I have one last question. I know that there is a chair, that election that's supposed to happen. When is that supposed to happen?
January 9th.
Thank you so much.
Any other matters coming before the board? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.